News traveled fast in human space. Within 2 hours, 15 more ships had arrived at the location where the 3 cargo vessels faced off against the Vorthan fleet. What started as a simple cargo run had turned into the most entertaining event in the sector. Captain Ji-Hai Choi adjusted her passenger liner's position to get a better view of the alien ships. The Star of Incheon had been carrying tourists to a nearby resort world, but her passengers had voted unanimously to take a detour when they heard about the dramatic aliens. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ji-Hai announced over the ship's intercom, "if you look out the starboard windows, you can see the famous Vorthan Empire ships. Notice the excessive use of spikes and the unnecessarily large weapons. Our xenobiology expert will be giving a presentation in the main lounge in 10 minutes. Dr. Dong-Hyun Yu was indeed preparing his presentation, though he had never expected to study aliens who seemed more interested in looking scary than being practical. He watched the Vorthan ships through high-powered telescopes taking notes. "Fascinating," he muttered to his assistant. "Their ship design follows what I call the intimidation over efficiency principle. Every surface that could have a spike does have a spike. Even the communication arrays are pointy." Subin Han, a young pilot who had been delivering supplies to a mining station, was having the time of her life. She had started taking bets from other ship captains on what the aliens would do next. 10 credits. Says they fire another warning. "Shot," called Captain Myong-Soo Jang from a nearby freight. "Holler. 20 credits says they try to board one of our ships," countered Captain Seon Ho Park from a survey vessel. 50 credits says they give up and fly away, laughed Captain Boram Kim from a small research ship. Subin was keeping track of all the bets on her tablet. Current odds are 5 to 1 against them actually attacking anyone. Most people think they're too confused to do anything dangerous. Back on the Seoul Wanderer, Captain Hyun-Woo Kim was watching his scanner display with amazement. "Yunji, how many ships do we have here now?" 23 human vessels, sir. And more are coming. The traffic control station at New Seoul says there's a whole convoy of passenger ships heading this way. Apparently, people are calling this the best entertainment in the sector. Taemin was still analyzing the alien ships and providing commentary that was being broadcast to the growing human fleet. "Look at this, everyone. See how their main weapons are mounted? They're designed to look impressive when the ship is facing you, but half of them can't actually aim at the same target. It's like they prioritized looking scary over tactical effectiveness." Admiral Kexthul's voice crackled over the communications again, sounding increasingly frustrated.
"Human vessels."
"Why do more of you keep arriving? Are you calling for military reinforcements?" Captain Ji-Hai answered from her liner. "Oh no, Admiral. These aren't military ships. We're mostly tourists and cargo haulers. People heard about your dramatic speeches and wanted to see for themselves." "Tourists?" The alien admiral's voice went up in pitch. "You brought tourists to observe our conquest?" "Well," Ji-Hai said diplomatically, "it's not really a conquest if we're not surrendering, is it? It's more like a cultural exchange. My passengers are very interested in learning about your civilization." Dr. Dong-Hyun Yu had finished setting up his presentation and was now broadcasting it to all the human ships. The Vorthan Empire appears to be a military culture that relies heavily on psychological warfare. Their entire approach is designed to create fear and submission in their enemies. However, they seem completely unprepared for opponents who don't respond with fear. "Doctor," came a voice from one of the passenger ships, "why don't they just attack us if they're so powerful?" "Excellent question," Dong-Hyun replied. "I believe they're experiencing what we might call cultural shock. Their entire military doctrine is based on intimidation. When intimidation fails, they don't seem to have a backup plan." Admiral Kexthul was apparently listening to the broadcast. "We have backup plans. We have conquered 17 star systems." "That's very impressive," Dong-Hyun said in the tone one might use with a child showing off a drawing. "But tell me, Admiral, what exactly did you do when those other species surrendered? How did your conquests usually proceed?" There was a long pause. They would beg for mercy. They would offer us their resources and submit to our rule. Some would flee in terror before we even made our demands. "And none of them ever laughed at your introduction speech?" Subin asked innocently. "No, none of them laughed. Laughter is not the appropriate response to Vorthan military might." Captain Hyun-Woo Kim felt a little sorry for the confused alien. "Admiral, I think there might be a cultural misunderstanding here. Humans tend to laugh when something seems overly dramatic or theatrical. It doesn't mean we don't respect your military capabilities." "Theatrical?" Admiral Kexthul sounded offended. Our declarations are traditional. They follow ancient Vorthon protocols established over thousands of years. Taman piped up helpfully. Maybe that's the problem, sir. Your protocols might be a little outdated. Modern audiences prefer a more conversational approach. Modern audiences? The Admiral was clearly struggling with the concept. We are not performing for audiences. We are demonstrating superior firepower. But you are performing, Jihai pointed out gently. All that dramatic language, the intimidating ship designs, the carefully positioned fleet formation. It's very theatrical. You've clearly put a lot of thought into the presentation. Captain Sung Ho from the Busan Express had been quietly listening to the exchange. Admiral, can I ask you something? When you conquered those other 17 star systems, did you enjoy it? Enjoy? Kexthul sounded confused by the question. Conquest is duty. It is necessity for the expansion of the Empire. But was it fun? Did you look forward to meeting new species and learning about their cultures? Fun? The Admiral repeated the word like it was foreign to him. Conquest is not supposed to be fun. It is serious business. That's your problem right there, Subin laughed. You're taking yourselves way too seriously. Look, you've got these amazing ships and obviously advanced technology. You could be exploring the galaxy, making friends, learning new things. Instead, you're stuck giving the same scary speech over and over. Dr. Dong Hyun-yu nodded approvingly. The young lady makes an excellent point. Your species has clearly achieved remarkable technological advancement. You could contribute so much to galactic civilization through cooperation rather than domination. Cooperation? Admiral Kexthul sounded like the word hurt him. The Vorthon Empire does not cooperate. We conquer. We dominate. We rule. Why? Asked a voice from one of the passenger ships. Why not try something different? There was another long pause. When Admiral Kexthul spoke again, his voice was quieter, more uncertain. Because that is what we have always done. That is what Vorthons do. Captain Kim felt a moment of genuine sympathy for the alien admiral. Maybe that's what Vorthons used to do, but that doesn't mean it's what you have to keep doing forever. You don't understand, Kexthul said, his voice growing stronger again. We are warriors. We are conquerors. Without conquest, what would we be? Happy? Suggested Timon. The simple answer hung in the space between the human and alien fleets like a challenge to everything the Vorthon Empire believed about itself. Captain Hyunwoo Kim was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. He nearly dropped his cup as red lights flashed across the bridge of the Soul Wanderer. His cargo ship had been making a simple run between two human colonies, carrying nothing more dangerous than farming equipment and medical supplies. What's happening? Kim asked, rushing to his captain's chair. Yoonji Park looked up from her communication station, her face pale. Sir, we have 3 massive ships approaching. They're not human designs. They're huge and covered in spikes and weapons. Taemin Lee, the ship's engineer, whistled low as he studied his scanner readings. Captain, those ships are each 10 times our size. They look like someone tried to make a spaceship as scary as possible. Kim frowned. The Soul Wanderer was just one of 3 small cargo ships in their little convoy. The other 2 ships, the Busan Express and the Daegu Runner, were also simple freighters. None of them carried any weapons beyond basic defensive systems. Are they trying to talk to us? Kim asked. Yes, sir, Yoonji said, her fingers dancing over her console. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. It sounds very formal and threatening. Put it on speakers. The bridge filled with a deep booming voice that seemed to echo with authority. Attention, primitive vessels of the human species. You are now in the presence of the mighty Third Fleet of the Vorthon Empire. I am Admiral Kexthul, conqueror of 17 star systems and bringer of order to the galaxy. Taemin snorted. Bringer of order? That sounds like something from a bad movie. Shh, Kim waved at him, but he was fighting back a smile himself. The voice continued. Your pathetic species has expanded beyond your allowed boundaries. You will immediately surrender your vessels and prepare to offer tribute to the glorious Vorthon Empire. Any resistance will result in your complete destruction. Tremble before our might and despair, for your fate is sealed. The bridge fell silent for a moment. Then Taemin started giggling. Tremble in despair? He managed between laughs. Did he really just say that? Who talks like that? Yoonji put her hand over her mouth, but her shoulders were shaking with suppressed laughter. I'm sorry, Captain, but that was the most dramatic threat I've ever heard. It sounds like he practiced it in front of a mirror. Kim tried to keep a straight face, but the mental image of the alien admiral practicing his scary speech was too much. Yunji, respond to their transmission. Tell them we received their message. Yes, sir. Yunji opened the channel. This is the human vessel Soul Wanderer. We have received your, She paused, clearly struggling not to laugh. We have received your very dramatic announcement. Dramatic? Taemin burst out. You should have said theatrical. Did you hear how he said tremble before our might? I bet he has a cape. This set off Yunji completely. She started laughing so hard she couldn't speak. The problem was she forgot to close the communication channel. Every giggle and snort was being broadcast directly to the alien fleet. Oh no, she gasped, reaching for the controls. The channel is still open. They can hear everything, but it was too late. The other two cargo ships had heard the alien's speech and the Soul Wanderer's response. Captain Sung Ho Pak of the Busan Express came on the radio. Kim, are you hearing this? These aliens sound like they learned English from old superhero movies. Tremble before our might. What's next? Are they going to demand we surrender or face their ultimate weapon? Captain Haewon Choi from the Daegu Runner joined in. I'm still trying to figure out why their ships have so many spikes. Do the spikes make them go faster? Or are they just trying to look scary? Kim realized their private conversation was still being broadcast to the aliens. Guys, remember we're on an open channel. Oh right, Sung Ho said, not sounding sorry at all. Sorry, Admiral Kexthul. We don't mean to be rude. It's just that your introduction was very enthusiastic. There was a long pause from the alien fleet. When Admiral Kexthul spoke again, his voice sounded confused and angry. You dare mock the mighty Vorthan Empire? We have conquered entire civilizations. Planets have surrendered at the mere mention of our name. I believe you, Kim said, trying to sound diplomatic. It's just that we're not really used to such formal introductions. Humans tend to be more casual. Taemin was studying his instruments and shaking his head. Captain, their ships are amazing from an engineering perspective. But someone really went overboard with the intimidation factor. Look at this. He put the alien ship designs on the main screen. See all those weapons pointing outward? Half of them can't even fire forward. They're just there to look scary. Taemin, Kim warned, but the engineer was on a roll. And the spikes. They're everywhere. The aliens must spend a fortune just polishing all those pointy bits. I bet they have a whole crew just dedicated to spike maintenance. Yunji had managed to control her laughter, but she was still grinning. Sir, we're getting calls from other human ships. Word is spreading about our new alien friends. Other ships? Yes, sir. The mining station at Kepler 442 wants to know if the aliens are as dramatic in person as they sound on the radio. And there's a passenger liner that changed course just to come see what's happening. Kim rubbed his forehead. This was not how first contact with aliens was supposed to go. What are the aliens doing now? They're just sitting there, Yunji reported. All three of their ships are holding position about 10 kilometers away. They haven't moved for the past 20 minutes. They're probably trying to figure out why we're not scared, Haewon suggested over the radio. To be fair, Sung Ho added, they do have some impressive weapons. Those plasma cannons could probably destroy our ships easily. True, Kim agreed. But you have to admit the whole Conqueror of 17 star systems thing sounded a bit over the top. Admiral Kexthul's voice cut through their conversation again, sounding even more confused than before. Humans, why do you not fear us? Every species we have encountered has either fled in terror or begged for mercy. You are laughing at us. We're not laughing at you, Kim said diplomatically, though that wasn't entirely true. We're just not used to such formal first meetings. Formal? Kexthul sounded offended. This is a demonstration of power, a display of military might. You should be trembling. Taemin couldn't help himself. Sir, with all due respect, if you wanted us to tremble, you might want to work on your delivery. The whole speech came across more like a dinner theater performance than a real threat. The alien admiral made a sound that might have been a growl or a sigh. This is not how conquest is supposed to proceed. Kim found himself feeling almost sorry for the confused alien. Admiral Kexthul, maybe we could start over? Perhaps we could have a more normal conversation. Normal? The alien sounded like Kim had just suggested something impossible. We are the Vorthan Empire. We do not have normal conversations. And with that dramatic declaration, the three human cargo ships burst into fresh laughter, their crews completely unable to take their would-be conquerors seriously. Fleet Admiral Young Soo Kwan arrived 3 days later with a proper military escort, but not for the reasons Admiral Kexthul expected. Instead of battleships and weapons, Admiral Kwan brought anthropologists, linguists, comedians, and documentary filmmakers. The human fleet had grown to over 60 ships, turning the standoff into the galaxy's most popular tourist attraction. "This is Fleet Admiral Kwan of the Human Defense Force," he announced on all frequencies. "I'm here to formally respond to the Vorthon Empire's interesting proposal." Admiral Quetzalcoatl's voice crackled with hope. "Finally, a proper military response. Are you here to surrender your species to Vorthon rule?" "Not exactly," Admiral Kwan replied cheerfully. "I'm here to make you a counteroffer." Dr. Mi Young-song, the human fleet's chief xenocultural specialist, was busy studying recordings of every Vorthon transmission. She had filled 3 notebooks with observations about their speech patterns, word choices, and underlying psychology. "It's remarkable," she told her research team. "Their entire culture appears to be built around intimidation and fear. But look at how they respond when that doesn't work. They become confused, almost lost. I don't think they have any other social tools." Jaewon Ryu, a professional comedian who had volunteered for this first contact mission, was reviewing the alien speeches with an expert eye. "They're not bad performers, actually. Great voice projection, dramatic timing, impressive costumes. They just need better material." "Better material?" asked Heejin Kim, who was documenting everything for her upcoming documentary. "Sure, all their threats are the same. Tremble before our might, surrender or be destroyed, we are the mighty whatever." It gets repetitive. They need some variety, maybe some humor. People love a villain who can make them laugh. Admiral Kwan was preparing for his formal response, but first he wanted to understand what they were dealing with. "Dr. Song, what's your assessment of the Vorthon psychology?" "They're like children playing dress-up as scary monsters," she said thoughtfully. "Everything about their presentation is designed to make others afraid. But when fear doesn't work, they don't know what to do. They seem genuinely confused by our reactions. And what do you recommend? Treat them like what they are. A species that's very good at one thing but has never learned to do anything else. They're not evil, Admiral. They're just limited." Admiral Kwan nodded and opened a channel to the Vorthon fleet. "Admiral Quetzalcoatl, I'm ready to give you our formal response to your ultimatum." "Excellent," the alien admiral replied. "I assume you will be announcing your species' surrender. Actually, we'd like to make you a different offer. Instead of surrendering to you, we'd like to invite you to participate in the first ever Human Vorthon Cultural Exchange Comedy Hour." There was a very long silence. "Comedy hour?" Quetzalcoatl finally managed. "That's right," Admiral Kwan continued smoothly. "We've been studying your presentations over the past few days, and we think you have real potential as entertainers. Your dramatic delivery is excellent. Your costumes are impressive, and you clearly know how to command an audience's attention." Jaewon Ryu took over the transmission. "Admiral Quetzalcoatl, I'm a professional comedian, and I have to say your timing is fantastic. That pause you did after 'Tremble before our might,' perfect dramatic effect. With a little coaching, you could be headlining comedy clubs across human space." "Comedy clubs?" The alien admiral sounded horrified. "We are not comedians. We are fierce warriors. Why can't you be both?" asked Dr. Song. "Some of the most successful entertainers are people who can be intimidating and funny at the same time. You already have the intimidating part mastered." Captain Ji-Hai, still broadcasting from her passenger liner, added her support. "My passengers have been watching your fleet for 3 days now, and I have to tell you, you've provided them with the best entertainment they've ever had. They're already asking when you'll be performing again." "Performing?" Quetzalcoatl was clearly struggling with the concept. "We do not perform. We conquer." "But you do perform," Heejin pointed out, her cameras recording everything. "Every time you give one of your speeches, you're performing. Every time you position your ships in that dramatic formation, you're creating a show. You're naturals at this." Subin, who had been keeping track of betting odds, checked her tablet. "Admiral, I should mention that you've become quite famous in human space. Videos of your speeches have been viewed over 50 million times. You're trending on every social media platform." "Trending? It means people are talking about you," explained Taimin helpfully. "You're famous. Everyone wants to know more about the dramatic aliens with the spiky ships." Dr. Dong Hyun-Yu had been analyzing the psychological impact of the standoff. "Admiral Quetzalcoatl, may I ask you something? How do you feel right now, compared to how you felt when you started your conquest attempts?" "How do I feel?" The alien admiral paused. This is very different from our usual conquests." "Different how?" "Usually by now, the enemy species would have either fled or surrendered. We would be cataloging their resources and establishing our rule. Instead, I am talking. We have been talking for 3 days. And how does that make you feel? Dr. Song asked gently. Another long pause. Confused, but also curious. You humans are unlike any species we have encountered. You ask questions. You make jokes. You treat us like individuals rather than just a conquering force. Admiral Kwan sensed an opening. Admiral, what if I told you that we could offer your people something better than conquest? What if instead of ruling through fear, you could be celebrated across the galaxy? What if instead of making enemies, you could make friends? Friends? Kexthul said the word carefully, like he was trying it out for the first time. Think about it, Jaewon said enthusiastically. You have natural stage presence, amazing costumes, impressive props. Those spiky ships would look great under stage lights. You could be the galaxy's first interspecies comedy troupe. We could teach you human humor, offered Dr. Song. And you could teach us about Vorthon culture. Real cultural exchange, not conquest. Captain Hyun-Woo Kim, who had started this whole encounter, felt moved to speak up. Admiral, these past 3 days have been the most interesting experience of my life. I've learned more about your species than I ever expected. You're not just conquerors. You're complex beings with your own thoughts and feelings. You see us as individuals? Kexthul asked, and there was something vulnerable in his voice. Of course we do, Kim replied. Every species we've met has been made up of individuals. Why would you be different? For the first time since the standoff began, Admiral Kexthul didn't respond immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter, more thoughtful. I must consult with my officers. This is not a situation covered in our military protocols. Take all the time you need, Admiral Kwan said kindly. We're not going anywhere. And Admiral, thank you for the most educational first contact in human history. Admiral Kexthul spent 2 hours in conference with his officers before contacting his superiors. The call to Vorthon High Command was the most difficult conversation of his military career. Supreme War Chieftain Mordex appeared on the communication screen, his heavily armored form imposing even through the video link. His face was covered in ceremonial scars and his eyes glowed red with genetic modifications designed to inspire terror. Admiral Kexthul, Mordex growled, explain to me why 3 small human cargo ships have not yet surrendered to your fleet. Supreme War Chieftain, the situation is complicated. The humans do not respond to our traditional methods, or... What do you mean they do not respond? Did you give them the ultimatum of inevitable doom? Yes, sir. Multiple times. Did you demonstrate the formation of crushing despair? Yes, sir. They said it looked nicely choreographed. Mordex's glowing eyes narrowed. Choreographed? They appear to view our military displays as entertainment, sir. They have brought tourists to watch us. Currently, there are 67 human vessels observing our fleet. Tourists? The Supreme War Chieftain's voice rose to a roar. They brought tourists to their own conquest? Yes, sir. They are also broadcasting our conversations across their communication networks. Apparently, we have become what they call famous. Mordex stood up from his command throne, his massive form filling the screen. Admiral Kexthul, you will immediately demonstrate Vorthon power by destroying one of their ships. Choose the smallest one and obliterate it completely. This will show them the consequences of mocking the Vorthon Empire. Yes, Supreme War Chieftain, Kexthul replied, though his voice lacked its usual enthusiasm. The Admiral closed the communication link and turned to his weapons officer. Target the smallest human vessel. Prepare to fire a full plasma barrage. Meanwhile, Captain In-Ho Shin was enjoying the most exciting cargo run of his career aboard his small freighter, the Mokpo Star. His ship was indeed the smallest in the human fleet, carrying nothing more dangerous than agricultural supplies and spare parts. Captain, his navigator called out, the big alien ship is targeting us with some kind of energy weapon. Really? That's interesting. Are they finally going to do something besides talk? Dr. Song, monitoring all communications from Admiral Kwan's flagship, immediately opened a channel. Admiral Kexthul, we're detecting weapons lock on one of our vessels. Is this part of your cultural demonstration? Humans. Kexthul's voice boomed across all frequencies. You have refused to show proper fear of the Vorthon Empire. Now you will witness our power. Prepare to watch your smallest vessel be destroyed as an example of what awaits those who mock us. The human fleet fell silent for a moment. Then Captain In-ho Shin's voice came over the radio, calm and curious. "Admiral, before you destroy my ship, could you tell us what kind of weapon you're using? My engineer is fascinated by alien technology." Kexthul paused, clearly not expecting this response. It is a plasma cannon. Very powerful. It will completely vaporize your vessel." "Wow, plasma technology. We've been working on that for years. How do you prevent the magnetic containment from destabilizing at high temperatures?" What?" "The plasma containment," In-ho repeated patiently. "It's one of our biggest technical challenges. We'd love to learn how you solved it." Admiral Kexthul found himself explaining plasma cannon technology to the very ship he was about to destroy. "We use crystalline matrices to stabilize the magnetic fields. The crystals are grown in zero-gravity environments to ensure perfect molecular structure." "Fascinating," In-ho replied. "And how do you compensate for energy loss during beam travel across long distances?" We use focused graviton pulses to create a containment tunnel through space." Dr. Song was furiously taking notes. "Admiral, this is remarkable science. Have you considered publishing these findings? The galactic scientific community would be very interested." "Publishing?" Kexthul sounded confused again. "Sharing knowledge with other scientists. It's how we advance understanding throughout the galaxy." Captain A-ra Jung, a military strategist observing from a nearby cruiser, spoke up thoughtfully. "Admiral Kexthul, I have to ask, why destroy a ship when you could demonstrate your technology in a less violent way? You could show us your weapons without actually hurting anyone." "Because," Kexthul started, then stopped. "Because that is what we do. We destroy things to show our power." "But you've already shown your power," pointed out Captain Byung-ho Ko, a veteran spacer. "Your ships are incredible, your weapons are obviously advanced, and your engineering is impressive. Everyone here knows you could destroy us if you wanted to. The question is, why would you want to?" Supreme War Chieftain Mordex's angry voice cut through the discussion. "Admiral Kexthul, stop chatting with the enemy and destroy that ship immediately." "Yes, Supreme War Chieftain," Kexthul replied reluctantly. "Humans, prepare for demonstration of Vorthan might." The plasma cannon fired, its brilliant energy beam striking the Mokpo Star's cargo bay. The explosion lit up space with spectacular colors, and debris scattered in all directions. What happened next completely demoralized the Vorthan fleet. Captain In-ho Shin's voice came over the radio, sounding like a sports commentator. "Wow, direct hit to the port cargo bay. That was a beautiful shot, Admiral. Perfect accuracy. My damage control team reports the blast took out about 30% of our cargo space, but life support and engines are still operational." "Are you injured?" Dr. Song asked with concern. "Just some bumps and bruises. The safety systems worked perfectly. But I have to say, that was the most impressive fireworks display I've ever seen. Admiral, your weapon effects are spectacular. Do you have different colors available, or just the blue-white plasma?" Admiral Kexthul stared at his instruments in disbelief. You are not afraid? I just destroyed part of your ship." "Well, it was pretty exciting," In-ho admitted. "Though I do hope my insurance covers alien weapon damage. That's going to be an interesting claim to file." Su Bin was already updating her betting pools. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Mokpo Star took a direct hit and Captain Shin is treating it like a minor traffic accident. Current odds on the aliens giving up in frustration are now 3-1. Jae-won Ryu couldn't resist adding his commentary. "Admiral, I have to give you points for style. The timing of that shot was perfect, and the visual effects were outstanding. However, I think you might want to work on your follow-through. In entertainment, you need to know how to handle audience reactions." "Audience reactions?" Kexthul's voice was becoming higher and more strained. "Sure. Captain Shin gave you the perfect setup with his technical questions. You delivered a great demonstration, and now you need to build on that momentum. Maybe explain how the weapon works or show us some variations." Captain Hyunwoo Kim felt genuinely sorry for the confused alien admiral. "Admiral Kexthul, are you all right? You sound distressed." "Distressed?" Kexthul's voice cracked. "I just fired our most powerful weapon at your ship, and you are asking me for technical specifications and color options. How are you not terrified?" "Because you missed all the important parts," Captain Byung-ho Ko explained gently. "You could have targeted our engines or life support, but you hit the cargo bay. Either your weapons are less accurate than you claim, or you deliberately chose not to kill anyone." There was a very long silence from the Vorthan fleet. Admiral Kexthul started, then stopped. "You didn't want to actually hurt us, did you?" Dr. Song asked softly. You just wanted us to be afraid. Another silence. Finally, in a voice so quiet it was barely audible, Admiral Kexthul admitted, We have never encountered a species that was not afraid. Dr. Mi Young Song felt like she was watching a child realize that the monster under their bed wasn't real. Admiral Kexthul's admission hung in space between the two fleets like a confession that changed everything. Admiral, she said gently, would you be willing to meet with us in person? Not for surrender or conquest, but just to talk. Supreme War Chieftain Mordex's voice erupted from the Vorthan flagship. Admiral Kexthul, you will not engage in diplomatic discussions with these insolent beings. You will continue the demonstration until they show proper fear. But something had shifted in Admiral Kexthul's voice. Supreme War Chieftain, with respect, the demonstration has not achieved its intended effect. Perhaps we need a different approach. There is no other approach, Mordex roared. We are Vorthons! We conquer through strength and fear. It is what we are. But what if it doesn't have to be? Kexthul asked quietly. The question seemed to shock Mordex into silence. Dr. Song seized the moment. Admiral, we have a proposal. Our xenocultural specialist team would like to meet with you and some of your officers. We can arrange a neutral meeting space, perhaps on one of our medical ships. No weapons, no threats, just conversation. Wu Jin Nam, the human diplomatic specialist, added his support. We're genuinely curious about your culture, Admiral. Not as conquerors or enemies, but as people. When was the last time anyone asked you about your personal thoughts or feelings? Personal thoughts? Kexthul repeated the phrase like it was foreign to him. Su-Young Lee, monitoring communications from her intelligence post, noted something important. Admiral, we've been analyzing your fleet's communication patterns. Are you aware that several of your younger officers have been listening to our broadcasts with great interest? Some of them have even been asking questions about human culture on private channels. They have? Subcommander Veltar from your third ship asked about human music. Lieutenant Kexmol wanted to know how human families work. Ensign Decknell has been requesting information about human food preparation techniques. Admiral Kexthul was quiet for a long moment. They should not be asking such questions. It is not proper for Vorthan warriors to show curiosity about enemy cultures. Why not? Asked Dr. Song simply. Because we are conquerors. We take what we need and impose our will. We do not make friends with our enemies. But we're not your enemies, Captain Kim pointed out. We never declared war on you. We never attacked your ships. We just didn't surrender when you told us to. If you are not our enemies, then what are you? The question hung in space like a puzzle waiting to be solved. We're just people, said Captain In-Ho Shin from his damaged ship. People who happened to be in the same place as you when you decided to give your conquest speech. We're cargo haulers, tourists, scientists, and explorers. We're not warriors or politicians or representatives of anything except ourselves. Just people? That's right. And from what we've learned about you over the past few days, you're people too. Confused people maybe, but still individuals with your own thoughts and personalities. Dr. Song had been working on her analysis throughout the standoff, and she finally felt ready to share her conclusions. Admiral Kexthul, may I tell you what I think happened to your species? Yes. I am curious to hear your thoughts. I think the Vorthan Empire became so focused on being conquerors that you forgot how to be anything else. Your entire society is built around intimidation and fear. But what happens to a society like that when intimidation stops working? It has never stopped working before, but it has now. And instead of adapting, your leadership is trying to force the same old methods to work through increased violence. They can't imagine any other way to exist. Supreme War Chieftain Mordex's voice cut through the discussion. Enough of this psychological analysis. Admiral Kexthul, you will resume combat operations immediately. But this time, Kexthul didn't respond to his superior immediately. Instead, he asked Dr. Song, what do you think we should do instead? What do you want to do? She replied. Not what you're supposed to want, not what your society expects, but what you personally find interesting or fulfilling. The question seemed to stagger the alien admiral. No one has ever asked me that before. Well, I'm asking now. In all your years of conquest, what moments did you enjoy most? Kexthul was quiet for so long that the humans began to wonder if the communication link had been cut. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft and thoughtful. I enjoyed learning about the different species we encountered. Each one had unique technologies, Interesting cultural practices, beautiful art forms. But we were not supposed to appreciate these things. We were supposed to catalog them as resources and move on. What else? I enjoyed the times when we could communicate with them before they became too frightened to speak. Some species had fascinating perspectives on existence, on philosophy, on the nature of the universe. But these conversations always had to be brief before we began the conquest process. Dr. Song felt her heart breaking for this confused, lonely being. Admiral, what if you could have those conversations without the conquest? What if you could explore the galaxy learning about different species as friends rather than enemies? Is such a thing possible? It's what humans do, Captain Ji-Hai said from her passenger liner. We explore, we learn, we make friends, we trade knowledge and resources. We've met dozens of different species and we're allies with most of them. Allies? Partners, friends, species that help each other and share knowledge. It's much more interesting than conquest and a lot less lonely. Sub-Commander Veltar's voice suddenly came over the communication channel, speaking directly without permission from his admiral. Humans, this music you broadcast during your rest periods. Who creates these sounds? Admiral Kexathul sounded shocked. Veltar, return to your station immediately. But Wu Jin Nam answered the young Vorthon's question. We call them musicians and composers. They're artists who create sounds that express emotions and tell stories. Would you like to hear more examples? Yes, please, Veltar replied eagerly. More Vorthon voices began joining the conversation. Lieutenant Kexamal asked about human family structures. Ensign Decknell wanted to know about food and cooking. Other young officers peppered the humans with questions about art, literature, philosophy, and daily life. Admiral Kexthol listened to his crew's enthusiastic questions with growing amazement. They have been wondering about these things. Of course they have, Dr. Song said. Curiosity is natural to intelligent beings. Your people have just never been allowed to express it before. Supreme War Chieftain Mordex's voice boomed with fury. This is treasonous. All Vorthon personnel will cease communication with the enemy immediately. But his order was met with silence. The young Vorthon officers continued their eager conversations with the humans, and Admiral Kexthul made no effort to stop them. Finally, the Admiral spoke directly to his Supreme Commander. War Chieftain Mordex, I formally request permission to engage in diplomatic negotiations with the human fleet. Permission denied. You will resume combat operations. And if I refuse, then you will be stripped of rank and court-martialed for cowardice and treason. Admiral Kexthul considered this for a moment. Then, in a voice filled with quiet dignity, he replied, Then I suppose I am no longer a Vorthon admiral. The statement sent shockwaves through both fleets. A Vorthon commander had never openly defied the High Command before.